Since Joe Biden has been in office, we've sat here and watched pretty much every other group in this country receive what the black community has been asking for decades now. We've watched the AAPI community receive a hate crime bill, we've watched the Native Americans receive a criminal justice reform bill, and now the elderly of the LGBTQ community will be receiving reparations from the federal government. The Biden administration has been giving other groups everything they want. And what's interesting about this is that they've received everything they wanted without a single march or protest. I find that very interesting because that is the result of not only having actual representation within government, but also having proper non-governmental representation as well. And unfortunately, as of now, Black America has neither. The Congressional Black Caucus, as well as non-governmental organizations like the NAACP, are fully compromised, pushing a Democratic Party agenda instead of an actual black agenda. Now let's get into this article from Slate.com titled, "The Biden Administration is Paying Out Thousands to Victims of Anti-Gay Discrimination." It sounds almost like a scam or a very aggressive legal advertisement. Gay? Discriminated against? You, yes, you may be eligible to collect a small fortune from the federal government today. But it's no scam. The Biden administration is paying out substantial sums of money to the surviving partners of same-sex couples who were denied the right to marry. No one knows exactly how many people are eligible, though the best estimate reaches into the thousands at minimum, and the pot of money stretches into the millions. Unfortunately, few of these individuals know they're entitled to these payouts, and many are elders of advanced age. So LGBTQ groups are in a race against time to identify and assist this population in vindicating their constitutional rights before it's too late. Lambda Legal, the organization leading the campaign, laid the groundwork in two lawsuits filed during Donald Trump's presidency. Both challenged the Social Security Administration's denial of survivors' benefits to individuals affected by same-sex marriage bans, which have been unforeseeable since the Supreme Court found them unconstitutional in 2015's Obergefell versus Hodges. The first suit was filed on behalf of widows and widowers who could never marry because their same-sex partners died before same-sex marriages were legalized. The second was filed on behalf of widows and widowers who were married for less than 9 months before their same-sex partner died. Typically, survivors' benefits are only available if the marriage lasted more than 9 months. But if an unconstitutional law prevented the couple from marrying until the end of the partner's life, Lambda argued the government had an obligation to alter this rule. In each case, a federal judge agreed that the denial of survivors' benefits violated the Constitution. These judges ordered immediate payouts to individual plaintiffs and certified nationwide class actions on behalf of every other LGBTQ person injured by this exclusionary policy. Predictably, the Trump administration dragged its feet in paying out benefits to the plaintiffs and appealed the class action, attempting to squash them. Now here's the important part highlighted in blue. Once President Joe Biden entered the White House, however, the Department of Justice started to sing a different tune. With Biden's officials in place, the federal government is eager to start paying out survivors' benefits to victims of anti-gay discrimination. Now, I want to read that to you one more time, okay? It states that once President Joe Biden entered the White House, however, the Department of Justice started to sing a different tune. With Biden's officials in place, the federal government is eager to start paying out survivors' benefits to victims of anti-gay discrimination. So Joe Biden just couldn't wait to get the LGBTQ community their money. He got straight to work firing all the people who needed to be fired in order to replace them with the proper staff to make sure that the LGBTQ got their money ASAP. Yet when he gave that tired commemoration speech at the 100th anniversary of the Tulsa Race Massacre, on that same day the news broke that Joe Biden had a private meeting with the Congressional Black Caucus telling them that they can forget about reparations for the descendants of American slavery. Stop asking me about that because it's not happening. For crying out loud, Biden wouldn't even pay out reparations to the last 3 remaining survivors of the Tulsa Race Massacre. But the moment the opportunity arose, he broke out the checkbook quickly for the elderly of the LGBTQ. Now, I'm just curious, Is this what you voted for when you voted for Biden? I'm just asking for a friend. Anyways, let's get back into this article. How much money are we talking about? The short answer is a lot. Survivors can start collecting benefits at 60 or 50 if they are disabled. Survivors applying for the first time will receive monthly payments moving forward. The number varies based on the deceased partner's earnings and gets higher when the recipient has reached full retirement age. As of August, it averaged around $1,250 a month. If a survivor applied previously and was denied, they will be paid a lump sum up front, providing retroactive benefits going back to the date of their application, in addition to the monthly checks. A New York Times report provided a good example of how these benefits cash out. Anthony Gonzalez and Mark Johnson lived together in New Mexico for 16 years before they were finally able to marry in 2013. Johnson died in 2014. Gonzalez applied for survivors' benefits 6 years ago, facing swift rejection. Recently, thanks to the settlement between Lambda and Biden, he received a $90,000 retroactive payment as well as a $1,800 monthly check. Some survivors might assume they aren't eligible because they never actually got married, but the Social Security Administration has trained its staff to gauge whether a survivor would have been married but for the unconstitutional marriage ban. Among other factors, they look at whether the couple was in a committed relationship, lived together, or owned property together, supported each other financially, raised children together, or held a commitment ceremony. No single factor determines the outcome. It's a flexible standard meant to accommodate for the restraints that anti-gay animus imposed on same-sex couples. Applicants can provide documentation, and if they're turned down, they have an opportunity to appeal. Quick translation: by hook or by crook, Joe Biden is going to make sure that these people get their money. So far, the Social Security Administration has identified 700 people who previously applied for and were unconstitutionally denied survivors' benefits. Lambda attorney Peter Wren told me that the number only represents the tip of the iceberg because the overwhelming majority of the people who were never able to marry, understandably never applied for benefits, generally depended upon marriage, believing that to be futile. Wren said thousands of surviving same-sex partners are potentially sitting on millions of dollars. I'm going to repeat that again. Wren said thousands of surviving same-sex partners are potentially sitting on millions of dollars in survivors' benefits for which their loved ones already paid and which could dramatically impact their everyday lives. The number of eligible survivors gets smaller every year. By definition, only elders qualify for these benefits. It is quite possible that many will die before receiving the money owed to them. Now that's unfortunate, and I mean that genuinely. But do you know what's even more unfortunate? Is the 2 million elderly Black Americans who survived Jim Crow that will never have a shot at receiving reparations because the Biden administration, let alone the Congressional Black Caucus or even the NAACP, doesn't even give a rat's behind enough to pretend to care about them and the compensation that they're owed. Now, this little stat that you're looking at right now comes from a Pew Research article titled Facts About the U.S. Black Population. And when you come down to the portion called Age Structure, you see this stat here that breaks down the Black population by generation. Now, concerning generations of people, we hear a lot about the baby boomers, but the generation before our age group that you seldom hear about. They're called the silent generation and the greatest generation. The greatest generation was born between the 1900s through the 1920s, and the silent generation was born between 1928 and 1945. Now, according to Pew Research, in between both generations, there are approximately 2,200,000 Black Americans that fall into both generations. Now, most importantly, this generation can tell you with vivid detail about the horrors of Jim Crow because they actually lived through it. And not to go on too much of a rant, but a lot of people have no idea how horrific of a time that actually was. For those who grew up under Jim Crow, every night was Halloween, if you catch my drift. The Purge was not a movie for them. It was real life. Now, are you really going to sit here and tell me that they don't deserve any form of reparations, yet some people who couldn't get married because they were the same sex are more entitled and more deserving to it than they are? Well, at least in Biden's eyes, they are more deserving. Guess that's why he told Black Americans to kick rocks when they asked for reparations prior to the 100th anniversary of the Tulsa race riot. But, I don't want to be such a downer. Let's look at the bright side. At least we got Trump out of office, right? And with all that being said, that does it for today's video. So please make sure you hit that subscribe button as well as the bell notification next to the subscribe button so you'll be notified whenever I release a new video. All social media links will be pinned in the comment section below. Please make sure you text tdhiphop to number 33222. That's tdhiphop to number 33222. That way you'll get a direct text notification whenever I release a new video, but it also serves as a protection plan for myself in case YouTube ever gives this channel the axe. I'll be able to send you a direct link to where you can find me next. And last but not least, for those of you who have a love and appreciation for the work that I put in on this channel, the number one way you can show your support is through Patreon. For only $3 a month, that will help put me in position to take TD Hip Hop Media off of YouTube. Remember, the goal is not to grow big on YouTube, but to grow independent of YouTube. And for those who have issues with joining Patreon, you could also hit the join button that's next to the subscribe button, and that way you can become an official channel member for as little as $3 a month as well. And lastly, if you have not already, please make sure you join the emailing list. There is no way that I can go independent of YouTube if I cannot take the audience with me. And the link to that will be pinned in the comment section as well. Thank you for your time, and until the next video, peace.